The prophecy of Quetzalcoatl originates from Mesoamerican mythology, particularly within the Aztec culture. This figure was a god associated with wind, learning, and the dawn of time, and he was often depicted as a feathered serpent. According to various versions of the prophecy, Quetzalcoatl was said to have departed from the land, vowing to return one day. This return was linked to specific astronomical events and timing within the Mesoamerican calendar. Notably, the year 1519, which coincided with the arrival of Hernán Cortés, was significant as it marked the end of a 52-year cycle known as the bundling or century in the Aztec calendar. This period was thought to be a time of transformation and renewal. The prophecy also emphasized characteristics attributed to Quetzalcoatl, such as being fair-skinned and having a beard which aligned with Cortés's appearance. None of them had ever seen a horse before. They thought the rider and the horse were one magnificent deity. They had never seen boats and thought only Quetzalcoatl could have such a glorious convoy. Their leader, Montezuma II, invited him and his army inside their impenetrable city. There, Montezuma took them to the highest temple. There was a line of prisoners from nearby villages starting from the bottom step of the temple. Montezuma then cut their throats one by one and carved out their hearts, throwing the hearts to one side and the bodies to the other. According to estimates, between a few thousand and 250,000 slaves were killed per year during their reign, a sacrifice for their guests. Seeing this, his army wanted to pack up and go home before it was too late. Cortés angrily ran back and burnt down their ships, forcing his army to stay and fight. Cortés, seeing the sacrifices in action, realized he could forge alliances with disgruntled tribes and trained them to use advanced weaponry unknown to the Aztecs. He knew the Aztecs had come to rule over 500 small states and some 5 to 6 million people, knowing some would be willing to fight their oppressors. 140,000 people lived in Tenochtitlan, and it was the key to the entire empire. Once the city was taken, the surrounding tribes and states would not object. The issue was the city was impenetrable due to the fact it was surrounded by a vast moat with very few and well-guarded entries. But since he was seen as a deity, he used his entry to hold open the gates, letting in all of his army and nearby tribes. They sacked the city and took down their king, effectively ending their supremacy in the region. That is the well-known story that most people know, but there are always two sides to everything. Many people think it's just the Spanish version of events. Many claiming the Aztecs would have no reason to have a prophecy of a pale-faced man. These people say the Aztecs' downfall was primarily due to a combination of some of the factors mentioned, rather than a misguided belief in prophecy. These factors include the technological advantages of the Spanish, such as firearms and steel weapons, as well as the use of horses in warfare. Additionally, the Spanish forged alliances with various indigenous groups, discontented with Aztec rule being persecuted by them, which significantly weakened the empire's military strength. Internal strife, disease brought by Europeans like smallpox, and strategic miscalculations also played crucial roles in the rapid collapse of the Aztec Empire, indicating that the outcome was influenced by complex socio-political dynamics rather than solely by prophetic beliefs, according to one source. In 1552, Francisco López de Gomara was the first person to say that the Spaniards conquered Mexico because the conquistadors had been seen as gods by the indigenous people. Whether this is true or not, that was over 50 years after the conquest. Obviously, both sides are probably a little misguided. I'm sure the Aztecs were impressed by their weapons, horses and boats and maybe let them in, but they most likely didn't think they were gods. Instead, they let their guard down and were taken advantage of.